as of 2 weeks ago, our county case was filed with the prosecutor's office for them to review in consideration of charging in regards to the incidents and the acts that occurred over the last handful of years by the prior board, and specifically the prior fire chief.
Great.
So what that means is that the prosecutor's office now has to review the case in its entirety and make a determination of charges if they are applicable, if they're deemed to be applicable. A case like this, as long as it took and as long as things have been going on, we know is super frustrating for the community. And believe me that we share in that frustration, and I know it took a long time. But the end result is the case, when it was sent to the prosecutor, was sent over for consideration of charging Kelly with multiple felony counts that they will have to review. Okay? If the prosecutor makes a determination that they feel, number one, that a crime occurred, and they can prove that crime, then they have an opportunity to seek a couple different avenues in how to proceed. They can issue a warrant for her arrest, or they can summon her to court on a summons to come stand before the court to be formally charged. So, although it took a long time to get there, their review itself is in its infancy. So I can speak on behalf of our agency, and certainly probably a request from the prosecutor's office is please be patient in their review of that and give them some time, because there's a lot of paperwork to review.
Yes,
now, this is an investigation is separate from the FBI investigation. However, much of the information that much of the evidence that we are hoping to be able to use in our case was gathered as part of that FBI investigation as well. I've been in constant contact with the special agent in charge of the investigation. I would anticipate most likely that their case is going to be closed here very soon, likely without federal charges, but that is because of the state case that we were able to present. The problem becomes in a case like this, where the dollar amount, as much as it is for a small district like this, and as devastating as it can be to your community, and it has been to your community, in the eyes of the federal government, it's not a big, sexy case. And the problem they ran into specifically at the federal level is the FBI is the investigative authority. Then they turn that case over to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and that U.S. Attorney's Office is who would be in charge of prosecuting for any federal charges. The federal system is a lot different than the state system, and not every crime that we have at the local state level translates over, and there's not an applicable crime at the federal level. So the feds, after their investigation, had far fewer potential charges that they could proceed with, and it was lots of meetings between our office, the Assistant U.S. Attorney's Office, our prosecutor's office, and the FBI, which is what led us to ultimately determining where you're going to get the most bang for your buck is going through, hopefully with state prosecution on the case.
So if it's going through the county level, is there like a public notice when they are brought before the court, if that's what happens?
I honestly don't know the legalities behind that. If there's a warrant issued,
would it be like an arraignment?
So no, initially it would be a summons to appear in court, and that would be most likely the ID hearing. So right now, if we went out and made a physical custody arrest based on the information that we have, what would happen is we would take that person, we would book them into the jail. Within 72 hours, they would have to appear before the court for what's called their ID hearing. And that's for the court to make an initial reading of the statement of probable cause and then make an initial ruling on that probable cause, where the judge reviews it and says, if everything within the four corners of this paper is true, then that supports the criminal charge of whatever they had been arrested for. And at that point, the judge would assess bail, they would address the issue of bail, and then they would also work on seeing if the person was qualified for a court-appointed counsel or if they were going to hire their own attorney. Arraignment would come later on, because even that ID hearing is not the official filing of charges. So then after that hearing, the prosecution has so long to officially file charges. If the subject is held in jail, that time is, I believe it's within 72 hours, court hours. So that is why in a case like this, where there is so much information for them to go over, it is not prudent for us, even if we felt we had a rock solid case against a particular subject. It's really a strategic decision whether or not we make that physical custody arrest and put them right into jail, and then tell the prosecutor, you've got a limited amount of time to make a decision, number one, and then make a charging decision. It's more prudent in these types of cases to give the prosecutor the time they need, because it's not likely, but it's probable that the prosecution or prosecutor's office might look at our case and say, hey, you know what, we think there might be something more here, but we want some more investigation in this avenue. So we're still working with the U.S. Attorney's Office to get their authorization for the FBI to turn over the information that they received via federal subpoenas and federal warrants on the banking information. The interesting thing is, although the FBI agents and I can sit in a room and talk, they can't readily share information obtained via federal warrants and federal subpoenas to state agents. So it's bureaucracy if anybody can understand it, I give them kudos.
So if a summons is issued and they're not in the state any longer, will the county pursue it?
So, yes. That being said, the recommendation from the conclusion of the report was considering charges against former Chief Walsworth. The other parties in the case, although had involvements in some of the activities, the clear-cut, in my opinion, criminal charges are against the former chief. So the charges we sent for review are leading organized crime, theft in the first degree, forgery, and trafficking in stolen property. So I want to commend this board, and Trina, you especially, for all of the work that you did. Mm-hmm. All of those spreadsheets, all of that information really helped us be able to focus our attention between the SAO reports and that information, and really kind of helped us grasp kind of the entirety of what we were looking at. Also, this board's recent decision to waive the confidentiality of the prior attorney got records to the FBI, which have then been turned over to us, which, in my opinion, clearly showed that the prior board was put on notice that there was certainly issues with some of the suspect transfers of money. Mm-hmm. So thank you for all of your work.
Thank you.
That really helped us.
Yes. Thank you.
So,
thank you.